Blessed morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Hi, I'm Tasha, and this is Let's Talk. Um, my channel is about sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, as well as domestic violence. Um, I'm going to talk about different topics of abuse of individuals that I know when I used to live in the Virgin Islands. But first, I'm going to start off with continuation with my zone. At 12 years old, I remember I was in my mom's bedroom and I was reading. I saw this book and I picked up the book and I started to read a book. And it was a book about the occult. And I started to read a book. But then when you reach a certain page, certain section in the book, it said, don't read any further if you didn't want to be possessed by the devil. So I closed the book. My mom came in and she saw me with a book and she asked me like what the F I'm doing, and I was like nothing, and she told me to get out. But a week later, I remember, vividly, something happened. I don't remember what it was, but she told me that she sold my soul to the devil. And I got mad because, we all know what the devil is all about. But I have some birthmark on my tongue, and she told me those marks is from the devil also. Not realizing that it was a mental abuse that she was putting on top of me. But I got so scared that I take it a knife and start to scrape my tongue out because I wanted those birthmarks to come off my tongue. And I know my mom was involved in. I know that there was a company that in the Virgin, and everybody talk about this company, and it's called the Lawrence Company, and it was out of New Orleans, and everybody talk about we don't say voodoo in the island, we say obey, and a lot of people was involved in it and stuff like that. And my mom was one of those that was involved in this company. And when she told me that, like I said, I was scared and everything like that. And I remember asking her, I said, but I'm not your favorite child. And she said, you think I'm going to give Jeremy to them? And that hurt me because you didn't love me. You didn't want me. So why would you do that? But like again, I said, that was just a mental thing that she played on me as a child. I didn't understand that. But I had a friend, Clarice, and we lived in Savannah also. And I remember, I don't know what happened, what she did in school or what, but I know her mother came to school and beat her in front of the whole school. And everybody was laughing at her and ridiculing her and stuff like that. And I felt bad because that was my friend. And I remember when her mother left, she was all bruised up and we was in the bathroom, and I told her, I said, why did you leave your mother beat you in front of the whole school? I would have run away from school, go someplace, and then wait till I go home so she could beat me. And that's when she told me also that she was sexually molested, but she never told me who it was. And I saw this sister life went down a hill where she never was able to recuperate herself. She ended up dying the most grievous death that anybody in the Virgin Islands could have died. She died. She was arrested. I don't know what she was arrested for, but she was in jail, and she got sick in jail, and they refused to give her CPR, and she stayed there and suffered till she died. I could tell you stories and stories and stories of people that I grew up with were sexually molested, and nobody wanted to believe us. We was lying, we didn't like the person, so that's why we said, why we were sexually molested. I could give an example. I know a brother, we grew up together. He was sexually molested by somebody I knew. And what he did, because he said he didn't want to become, at the time we didn't know what the word homosexual was. So everybody used to call you either anti-man or a faggot. And no disrespect. So I don't mean any disrespect at all when I say that, but I'm just telling the time that I was brought up in. That's the word. We never knew what homosexual was till years later. But anyhow, he started to get in trouble, you know, like myself. He ran away from home. He was living in the bush with some Rasta man. And I didn't know what to tell him. You know, I didn't know what to say to him, you know. But years later, I took a trip back home and I saw him and we started to talk. And because he was like having sex with a lot of women, like, you know, he had like multiple girlfriends. And I asked him why he's spreading himself like that, because I see, you know, how AIDS is and different diseases, you know. And he turned to me and he said, when I was sexually molested, the reason why I go with a lot of women, because yes, I was having not really desire, but feeling toward a man because I've been molested and I didn't know how to put it in the right place. So he said, in order not to feel away, he started to have sex with a lot of women. And people might think like those things don't happen. In the islands, you know, the way we was brought up is different from living in the mainland in America. Sexual abuse is rampant in the island. Incest is rampant in the island. And what a lot of people do, they bury it under the carpet. They put it on the carpet because they don't want to face up to reality that maybe their husband or their father or their sons or their nephews or their uncles is this perverted. And I could go on and on and on and tell you about stories about people that I knew that lost it, you know. Some of them, like I said, you know, commit suicide. Others is just totally crazy. But I wanted to say something also about child abuse here in America, well, not just in America. What happened to all these children who run away, who live on the street? Who parents put them out because they didn't want to believe that their husbands or their boyfriend or the grandfather molested these children. These children are living in the street. You know, they are selling the body just to survive. I ran away from home also. But good thing, the Most High God saved me, because when I ran away from home, I get caught in New York on John F. Kennedy Airport, and I couldn't go no farther because the FBI was involved in everything, and I was, you know, was going to be returned home. And I remember telling the one lady, please, I will do anything if you're not returning home. She said, we can't. Your mother requested you to go back home, and you're a minor, so you have to go back to the Virgin Islands. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried because I know the hell I was going back into. So, you know, we talking about it's for the children. We doing the foster care. The foster care is one bullshit. You know, they don't care about these children, because if they care about these children who is physically and mental and sexually abused, they won't put them in a situation where the foster parents is still molesting them, is still abusing them, they're killing them. So how, as we as a society, how is we gonna find a solution for this problem? There's women who with men and know these men are molesting their children, and they turn a blind eye because they want these men to be in their life, and they sacrifice their children. Shame on you. Not all women, but there's a lot of women who does that. Shame on you. You know? And I don't understand it. I don't understand why women do what they do to their children. It's best they wasn't born at all. It's best you take abortion, even though I am against that. But if you're going to bring a child in this world to suffer, it's best you didn't bring them in this world at all. But going ahead, my mom used to make my sister and I go to Grand Union supermarket with her every other weekend on Saturdays. And she had a big straw bag that says St. Thomas on it. And we would go there, she would buy food. but she would always make us steal stuff. And for me, I didn't like it. I didn't understand why we have to steal stuff. You have a job, you're working for the government, you have a business, you have houses that you're renting out, you have money, you have won the lottery a couple times. So why do we have to go and steal? I quite didn't understand that. And every time I told my mom I didn't want to do it, like I said, the names that we was called, I won't wish that not even on my worst enemy. We was called every name in the book that was so degrading to us as young girls, And I remember one Saturday, the security guard, he caught me, and my mom had a fit. She oh, I don't know why she's doing that. She's just a bad seed. And he made me put the stuff back out of her bag and stuff like that, and when I went home, she beat the shit out of me, I'm not fucking good and stuff like that, But in a sense, I was glad that I got caught, because I know she couldn't go back in there again, and we couldn't go back in there again without they following us. So that was the end of, of her going into the supermarket and stealing stuff, And I remember years later, the same security guard, I saw him, I was a young lady then. And he told me, he said, I know what happened. I know his mom was making you steal, and stuff like that. And I talked to him about certain things, but I didn't went into the deepness of it. And also at that time, basketball was like heaven to me. I love basketball. I will get beat for going on the basketball court outside our house, but I didn't care. And sometimes my mom will come outside on the porch and she would call me, and all the brothers who were my friend, they would stand in front of me so they could hide me. And she would call me and they were like, oh, she's not here, we don't know. She said, she tell them, when you see that bitch, tell her I'm gonna kick her ass. And I'll be right there. And I remember a couple of the brothers asked me, why is she doing that? And it's so funny, like I said, I used to tell them that she was not my real mother. She's my adopted mother. My mother died when giving birth to me, and she was my father's mistress. So my father gave her to me to rear. But they didn't believe me because they knew that was my mom. And I tried to find out kind of excuse why she treated me that way. And people would say well, what happened to your father? Well, my father used to come and pick me up maybe once, twice a month. He had a light blue Jeep, a 2-door, and he picked me up. He never talked to my mom. He just beat the horn, and my mom would say, go outside, your father is there. And he'd take me around the block, and that was the quality time that he spent with me. And I remember I told him what my brother and cousin did. I told him about the abuse. I showed him everything, all the marks on my skin. And my father told me, you're going to come an adult, and when you come an adult, you don't have to deal with this anymore. You could go on your own. And I turned to him, I said, Daddy, do you love me? And my father never answered me. He never said yes, he never said no. Not a word. And I remember he dropped me back off, and I was so hurt. Because when I was growing up, my father was my hero. I loved my father. But when I reached 12 years old, I realized he was a coward. He was spineless. So my love for him just started eventually going away. But one Friday, my mom took me. She said, you're going to the bank to meet your father so you could get child support. And at the time there was a bank, I called Barclays Bank, and it was on the waterfront. And when my mom taking me there, when my mom and I going there to see my father to get some money, my half brother and sister was there also to get some child support. And my father saw us, and you know what this spineless coward did? He ducked behind a car and hid it. So my mom saw him, because I saw him also. And my mom went on the car and asked him what he's doing. And she said, I come to pick up some child support because I know you get paid today. And he said the check that he has is not his check, it's his boss' check. And my mom and him get into a little confrontation, and my mom said, show me the check so I could know it's your boss' check, and he won't show it to her. And I was so embarrassed because there was so much of people there, and she's arguing with him. you know, you don't take care of this child, you know, I need money for this child, and, you know, and and my brothers and sisters, my half brothers and sisters were there with their mother also, and it was like a big commotion, these two women arguing with this man, you know, for child support for these 3 kids, you know, and he was like, he don't have no money, you know, and this and that, he gonna have some money next week and stuff like that. And my mom left, and, you know, I told her when I come home, you know, I don't want nothing to do with him. I don't want nothing to do with daddy, you know. And she said, well, you know, you're going to have to go up to his house and see if you get some money. So my same 2 half brother and sister and myself, about 2 weeks later, we went up to his house up in Freedom High. And when we went up there, he wasn't there, but his wife was there. And we going up the steps, and she asked us who he is, and we tell her, you know, with his children. You know, we are some of his children, because he had a lot of kids, and, you know, like 30 to 35 children he had, you know, and we was like the last bunch of his children. So she was like, he's not there, you know. And I was like, do you know when he's going to be back? And she got into a fit with us and telling us, you know, don't come up on her property. She gonna lose the dog, and also the dog could bite us and stuff like that. And I got, you know, irate, and I started cursing her. And I remember I heard my mom say she barren, that she can't breathe, you know. And, you know, why my father married, they went into, I heard him talking about why he married her and stuff like that. So I told her, say, you know, you jealous of us because you can't breathe, you're barren, you know. And I was like, you motherfucker, and shit like that. And she like, oh, you're a rude little bastard, you know. And she said, I'm going to get a dog. And my half brother said, let's go now. I'm like, I'm not going yet. So I pick up some rocks and I start to fling at her house and the porch and stuff like that. And she run in the door, and, you know, she tell somebody and lose the dog, and we left, you know, we run and we left, you know. And when I reached home, my mom asked me if I saw my father, and I told her no. But I didn't tell her what happened. And about 2 hours later, you know, he called the house, and I pick up the phone, and he asked me who this, and I said, I knew who he was, and I said, this is who I am, you know, this is your daughter and stuff like that, you know. And he told me that, you know, he's coming down there and he's gonna beat me and stuff like that. And I got like really angry, and I want to beat me. You don't support me, you don't take care of me, so you can't hit me. And if you ever put your hand on me, I'm gonna hit you back, you know. And I just started to curse him out on the phone, you know. And my mom was in her bedroom, and she heard all the commotion. She came up and she said, who are you talking to like that? So I just gave her the phone, and I went to my room, you know, and they was talking. And then she called me up and she said, you need to apologize to your father. And I said, no, that's not my father. You know, he's just somebody, you know. And she said, apologize to your father. So she gave me the phone, and I went on the phone, and I said, I'm sorry. And he said, sorry who? And I said, I'm sorry, Daddy. And he said, I want you to apologize to my wife. And I just hang up the phone. You know, I just hang up the phone, and I left it like that. And I live in St. Thomas till I was 16 years old. And I came to the mainland. But afterward, I went back home when I was like 17, because I went to Job Corps. And I went back home like when I was like 18, 19 years old, because while I was in Job Corps, I still was going through a lot of emotional stuff. I used to wet my bed in Job Corps. I stopped wetting my bed when I was 17 years old, you know. But going back, my mom, because I was planning to run away. I've been planning from time I was 12 years old how I'm going to run away. And like I said, I used to steal a lot of that money and hide it. And my mattress was so rotten. And I know she was never going to go in there. So I used to take the money that I stole, I put it in a little brown bag and put it inside the rotten part of the mattress. But I had money hid other places also. And I don't know what happened. She decided she's going to buy another bed. And when she took the bed outside, because like I say, it was rotten and it smelled, you know, from, you know, wetting my bed so bad. She found one of the bags with the money in it, and it was like $2,000. And she started cursing me, you know, again the name calling. But I was so, in a sense, immune to it that it didn't bother me anymore, you know. And, well, I mean, it bothered me, but I never showed her it bothered me. And she just like went on, and one of my oldest half brothers was a police officer. And she used to go and talk to him and tell him, I'm rude and I'm not listening, I'm difficult, and she don't know what's going on, and stuff like that. And I remember, one time he caught me selling weed because like I said, I used to sell weed at 12 years old, and he took the bag of weed from me. It was in a small Cocos bag, like a backpack, and he took the bag and he found the gun. He found the weed, he found the money, because everything was together, and he took them from me. And he told me that, he said, call me by my name, like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And he just started scolding me and scolding me and scolding me. Oh, you so bad, and, your mother right, and I never said anything. I just kept quiet, because instead of asking me and trying to figure out why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, you're just going down my throat and telling me how you're gonna beat me, and because you're my older brother, you have that right, and my mom telling him he could discipline me, and I was like, ain't none of you are putting your hand on me. I don't care what she said. I'm not having that, and left my half sister, she never really asked me what happened also, And like I said, I used to play basketball. I asked her to join the basketball team in junior and high school. When I was in 7th grade, she told me no. But I was able to join it at 8th grade. So, I basketball, like I say, was like a relief for me. So, I joined the basketball team, and it was a way to get away from the house, get away from the beating. But before all of that, she was involved with a man, Mr. C, and he was so nice to me. He was like the only person that I felt like was like a father to me. He was kind and everything. I never thought in my wildest imagination that all the niceness was because he had an ulterior motive. And I didn't find out the ulterior motive till I reached 19 years old. But I will get into that at a later time and tell you what happened. And he used to tell my mom, stop beating me, stop abusing me, and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, parents, mothers, when you with a man and he's not a child father, and he paying special attention to your daughter or your son, beware. Beware. I'm telling you, beware. The things that I went through. If I wasn't strong, if I wasn't a strong individual, I would have been sexually molested over and over and over. Not just, I wouldn't even say my brother and cousin because that was finished, but I think the men that she was involved with would have sexually molested me if I wasn't strong, because she would allow it also. Because she used to tell my sister and I, we have a pussy, and that's what it's for, and I was like, well, I don't want to be no whore, and it's kind of weird because I was wrong so much of brothers, we'll go up to the young gut. We'll bathe in the spring. I will have on my underwear and a t-shirt, and they will be in their box and a t-shirt. We'll get mangoes or whatever food we'll take up there, juice and stuff like that, some weed. And I was only girl around like 6-7 brothers. And nobody look at me in a sexual way. They never come on to me in any kind of sexual way, and they look at me like I'm one of them. And I felt like I was one of them. So boys never interest me. I never been with a boy or a young man until I was 19 years old when I met my first child father. After I was molested by my brother 8 years old and my cousin 11, I never been with a man, a boy. Well, we were still children, young adults, young ladies, young men. I never been with nobody until I reached 19 years old, But what was also so devastating for me too, my mom to tell people in the community that I'm a hermaphrodite. And I didn't know what a hermaphrodite was. So when the same guys I used to be around, and used to ask me, "Is it true you're hermaphrodite?" And I thought it was a tomboy. That's what I thought it meant. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a hermaphrodite," and people were like, "Wow," And I said I didn't find out until I was 19 years old when I went with my first child father, the first man I been with, and he asked me if I was a hermaphrodite, and I told him yeah, and he told me let me see, and so that's what I found out 19 years what a hermaphrodite was, and I was hurt because people in my community really believed that that's what I was, a hermaphrodite, but again, going back, I went to 9th grade, and when I went to 9th grade, school didn't mean anything to me. My first year in 9th grade, school didn't mean nothing to me because I was just selling weed. And I flunked 9th grade because I only had 2 credits. I was in the gym all the time. I was selling weed all the time. And my mom told me that she's not buying no more uniform for me. Because I'm stupid, I'm dumb. How could I just have 2 credits? And I bought my own uniform because, like I said, I was making my own money, and to some degree, she knew I was selling weed, and she told me that if I ever get caught, don't call her name because she will never bail me out of jail. So I didn't really worry about that. My second year in 9th grade, that's when a lot of the trouble started also too. She literally tried to kill me, and I started to really focus on school and stuff like that. And my math teacher was my second brother teacher, my oldest sister by mother teacher, my cousin teacher. So he had known the whole family. He used to be by our house. So when I went into his class, he told me to start to focus and stuff. So I started to focus and start to get my grades, together. And I had a teacher as my social study teacher, and her husband and my family was really close. And when she found out who my mother was, this teacher ridiculed me. This teacher went to the extent of embarrassing me in school, in front of the classes and stuff, calling me all kind of names. And I was like, I'm not going to tolerate it, And I saw her husband, like I said, he used to live in our community, and I told him, I said, you better talk to your wife. Because if she do what she did again to me, I literally gonna put my hand on top of her. Mm-hmm. And I said, I know it's gonna come a problem with me and you. And I know your family and my family is very, very close. And he told me he would talk to his wife. And eventually she stopped harassing me, but I found out why she was harassing me, because this particular teacher and this other teacher was friends. And I found out that Mr. C was married to this one teacher. And when they find out who my mother was, I catch hell because her husband was involved with my mother. And even though the teacher who husband was involved with my mother, she treated me a little different, but not that much like my social study teacher. Anyhow, my science teacher, Miss M, she was from someplace in other Caribbean island. And I remember Wednesday night, my mom was going to something with the church, with some kind of Bible study or some stupidness like that. But anyhow, she was taking my brother room and making it to the kitchen because my second oldest brother was in college, and I know he wasn't coming back to live with us again. And the word, I write her name and say she's a whore, but I put H-O-E, not W-H-O-R-E. And she saw it, and she asked my sister and I which one did it, and my sister said it was me, and I said it wasn't me, and she said, yeah, it's you. And she said, when I come back from down to the church, that better be off, else I'm gonna kill you. And I don't want you chopping up my wood. But I couldn't take it off because it was with a permanent magic marker, and it was in black, so I couldn't scrape it off for nothing. So I just left it there. I tried to put Clorox in it, it still won't come off. And when she came home and she see it was there, oh my God. My mom picked up a machete and she ran after me with this machete, and I run from in the living room to the hallway to our bedroom, and she tried to come in through the kitchen, and I run back. And when I run back, she was in our bedroom, and I was coming toward the kitchen, and she take the machete and tried to hit me in the head, and I put up my hand, and these are the marks right here that the machete cut me. And I never saw so much blood in my life for myself. And I started crying. My hand was literally open, and you could see, you mightn't be able to see the mark, but you know, if you look there, you could see the mark and you could feel it and everything like that. And my aunt, the one who caught my brother molesting me, she asked my mother what she doing. She crazy, and my mother like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. And at the time, my sister was messing also with a married man, and he was there to the house, and he had a red car, like a burgundy. And I said, I'm gonna call the police when I go to the hospital. I'm gonna tell them what you did. And she said, do, I'm gonna be right here waiting. And my aunt, I had on a yellow t-shirt, and they take a towel and wrap my hand up, and it was so much blood. So they took me to the old hospital around the field, and went into the emergency room, and they took me into the back. And I remember when the nurse asked me what happened, and my aunt was in there. And I was about to tell her, and my aunt said, I get cut with a knife. And she said, how did she get cut with a knife in 2 places? And she said, young lady, what happened to your hand? And I didn't say, I let my aunt say that, you know, I get cut. And when I came home, because I'm left-handed, I can't write with my right hand, I can only write with my left hand. And this is the mark on my left hand. And I wanted to tell so bad, because I wanted her ass to go to jail. I really wanted her to go to jail.
Not that bad.
You know, but she had so much influence with people in society. And when I went home, my hand was bandaged up and stuff like that, wrapped up. I for like 3 months I couldn't use my hand. So when I went to school, my science teacher had to make me sit next to her desk, put my desk next to her desk, and like whenever I get a test or something like that, she would do it, because I couldn't write my right hand. I'm left-handed. And that's when I knew that I really, really had to leave the house. So I stole $10,000 of money. But before that, I'm gonna tell you a story.
Next time.
Okay. You finished?